I think it's a good matchup. I think the timing favors Spence a little bit because Brook just fought Triple G. All that weight, saying he couldn't make the weight to come down, we don't know how he's physically going to feel. His skills will be there, but when you fight a young, hungry fighter, you've got to make sure you're on top of your game. But I think it's a 50-50 fight. It's tough, man, because I think Kell Brook is the more battle-tested fighter. He's the more seasoned fighter. He's got everything in his home court. Everything's going to be to his advantage for this fight. But I don't know if he could make welterweight no more. And I don't know if the Triple G fight took a toll on him. Those are the questions. But if that Triple G fight didn't happen, or if it went the distance, I would definitely pick him. But right now, I would say it's 50-50. Those are the words of WBC welterweight world champion Danny Garcia, talking about the upcoming fight between Kell Brook and his mandatory challenger for the IBF crown, Errol Spence. To me, this is interesting because Danny Garcia, being an American fighter, being a guy of, I'm not sure how old Danny Garcia is now. He must be in his late 20s, but him and Errol Spence are not too far apart in terms of age. Danny Garcia has obviously been a pro a lot longer. But Garcia would have heard the word in the gyms about how Errol Spence has been doing against certain fighters sparring. He will have a very good handle on just how formidable Errol Spence actually is from an insider's point of view. Now, the proof is in the pudding at the end of the day, and what happens in gyms is interesting, yes, and it can have some relevance on what takes place in the professional ring, but ultimately, all that matters when all is said and done is what actually takes place in a professional prize fighting ring. Can Errol Spence replicate what he has supposedly done in the gyms in an actual real fight? And I guess that's what Danny Garcia was alluding to there. He said that Kell Brook is the more battle-tested fighter. And he's obviously talking about the Sean Porter fight and maybe even the Carson Jones first fight where he had to come through some very, very rough moments in that particular matchup. We know he can come through tough times. I mean, even in the Triple G fight, which he got stopped in, he took a lot of punishment before his corner eventually threw in the towel. So we know Kell Brook can hang tough if need be. We don't yet know that about Errol Spence. What's he going to be like if he gets hit and hurt in Sheffield in the UK, thousands of miles away from home, with thousands of fans screaming for his blood, screaming for Kell Brook to destroy Errol Spence? How is he going to feel in that moment, having never been in a situation like that before? This is what we don't know. But can Kell Brook manage to put Errol Spence in that position where he's hurt him and he's got him, in uncharted territory, so to speak? It all remains to be seen. It's going to be fascinating to find out, but Danny Garcia believes this is a 50-50 fight. And if the Triple G fight hadn't happened, he'd be favoring Kell Brook. And that is the issue for me. I believe that Errol Spence is a very good fighter. I believe that stylistically, there are certain things about him that cause problems for Kell Brook, pre-Triple G or post-Triple G. But when you add the Triple G situation into the equation, the damage that he sustained in that fight, and the fact that he's coming down in weight, combined with Errol Spence being very confident and being on the ascendancy, when I put all those elements together, that's why I have to favor Errol Spence personally, because there are a bunch of different factors and there's a lot of uncertainty around Brook. Now, sometimes when fighters have their back against the wall, so to speak, they can produce their very best form. And maybe we'll see that with Kell Brook. Maybe he will produce his very best form because he's going to need to, I think. And I also believe that some people are overlooking the fact that he did lose his last fight. Yes, it was against Triple G, and psychologically he can say, okay, well, it was a middleweight, and it was not an ordinary middleweight. It was a beast of a middleweight that I lost to, but he still lost. His last fight ended with him being stopped by his opponent, taking big shots, succumbing to his opponent's will. So he knows the feeling of losing. It's still fresh in his mind. Errol Spence don't know the feeling of losing. You know, undefeated fighters have a certain confidence about them, which, you know, it can't really be gotten back. When you have that undefeated belief, it's something else. And that's what Errol Spence is coming to the fight with. Kell Brook is not coming to the fight with that because he just lost and he got stopped. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Let me know what you think about Danny Garcia's comments here, people. Do you see it as 50-50? And if the Triple G fight hadn't happened, would you, like Danny Garcia, be favoring Kell Brook? Maybe you're still favoring Kell Brook. Whatever the case may be, let me know. It's happening. I'm out.